Prayer with your own Dr. Tonya Williams. Grateful, thankful, and excited for another day in the land of the living. As you're coming on, I'm going to be sharing the love, something that I do oh so well. um, I'm just grateful for another day in the land of the living. The songwriter says, "It's another day that the Lord has kept me. He has kept me from all evil with my mind stayed on Jesus. It's another day. That's right. It's another day that the Lord has kept us. And we're just so grateful for what the Spirit of the Lord is doing in this season and this hour. Give everybody an opportunity to come on the line. For great is our God and greatly to be praised from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same. His name, his name is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He is the great I am, the everlasting Father. He's our battle axe. He's our weapon of war. He's the one that does the fighting for us, and we're just so grateful for what our God is doing in this hour and doing in this time. I just sometimes I just reminisce about the great things that our God has done. And, even if he doesn't do anything else, the fact that out of all the hundreds of people, the Lord chose us for such a time as this to number one, be saved and come into the knowledge of his truth. Number two, that he pulled us out of the muck and mire, out of all the many people that the Lord could have touched. He touched us. I'm grateful. I'm definitely grateful, and I'm glad for what the Spirit of the Lord continues to do in the lives of His people, and I'm just so excited. So I'm grateful that we know that our steps are definitely ordered by the Lord. The Lord continues to order our steps, and I'm just so excited. So thank you so much for joining, keeping the momentum of prayer with your host, Dr. Tanya Williams. It will be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 20. Oh, wow. This year will be 9 years of the keeping the momentum of prayer. And actually, I was really in prayer because I was going to stop doing the keeping the momentum of prayer. So I'm just kind of waiting for the Lord to give me direction. And every time I go to say, okay, we're going to, just continue this, if someone would email me or call me or text me and say, "Oh, Doc, I'm being blessed by the keeping the momentum of prayer," share their testimony, share their miracle, share their healing. And I said, "Okay, God, I'm gonna believe you. I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna continue to do it until my change comes." So we're just grateful that we are in another month. Thank God for happy February. We're in another month, and we're just so excited about what the Spirit of the Lord is doing in this hour. So as we go forth this morning, I want to go over a couple of events that's coming up. This is our time now in which we continue to keep everybody abreast of things that's going on. So for my Bronx babies, well, no, let me start from there. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we have the Aroma Prayer, 6:30 a.m. 6:30 a.m. You can connect with us via our conference call line, also through Facebook Live via Prayer and Consecration page, as well as TrueLifeRadio.net. Also, too, you can listen to us via TrueLifeRadio.net on the internet. You could go on the internet. You could listen to the Aroma Prayer Live, as well as Keeping the Momentum Live. And also, too, there's mobile apps, and we also upload the videos to YouTube. So, you many different aspects, especially for those of you that listen via the internet and you don't have social media or the conference call, you don't have social media, you could go to YouTube and you can listen to the Aroma Prayer on my YouTube page. So I'm definitely grateful for that. So every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then on Saturdays, we have 7 a.m., which is where we are now, which is keeping the momentum of prayer. We have that, and that's 1 hour of power. 1 hour of power we come and share. And then on Saturdays at 10 a.m., join me for the power gathering, 1540 Hempstead Turnpike in Elmont, New York. And we've been having a really good time. We're actually going into our second year at the power gathering. And sometimes I step back and I think, the Lord kind of sideswiped me with the power gathering because when I started it in August of 2018, it was only supposed to be for the month of September. It was only supposed to be for the month of September. And as I started to do it the month of September, the crowd was full. And when I got to the second to last class, I looked around and said, Lord, what am I going to do with these people? These people have been faithful, gravitated. And the Lord said, you keep it as long as I tell you to. So we're going into a year and a half already. A year and a half of the Power Gather will make 2 years September 1st. And I'm just amazed at what God is doing in the lives of his people, and many have come through the doors of the power gathering. Teachers, pastors, apostles, prophets have come through the door. Many people broken, hurt, and it's been a safe place. It's been a spiritual ER. So many have received mouth to mouth resuscitation, the word of the Lord to encourage them and to build them and to strengthen them to where they need to go. And I'm excited about the 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 breakthrough of the people, but also the obedience that God has given us in this hour to fulfill the call of God. And I'm just so thankful for what the Spirit of the Lord is doing in the lives of his people. That's why, people of God, we have to be to a point where that obedience is key. We must get to a point where we obey God, even when it doesn't make any sense. Last night in class, in prayer class, Pastor was talking, and again, it reminded me of something that Pastor Boyd used to tell us. He was talking about in this season now that we have to, step out on God, and it's not just having vision and provision, but it's having faith. And it was one of the things Pastor Boyd used to teach us. And he was definitely a man of faith. I believe that's what a lot of the things I'm able to do now, because we were inoculated with faith. We had Tuesday's faith clinic, and I mean, Pastor taught us faith, 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 faith. And it's been, faith is definitely the catalyst to bring you over many obstacles and many things, knowing that your trust and belief in God is critical to you fulfilling the call of God upon your life and the visions that God has given you. And there was a statement they used to say, and I think that has become part of my mantra, where he says, "If you have the faith, God has the power." And I'm telling you, whenever I find myself backed up against a wall, or I find myself challenged by the day to day trials and tribulations that might come my way, or even when the Lord might speak a word into my spirit concerning concerning the great things that he wants to do in the lives of his people. I think one of the catalysts that really always brings me back is faith. I think about the many things that I had accomplished. I didn't have the people. I didn't have the money. Sometimes I don't even think I had the know-how, or even the details on how to execute, but I stepped out in faith. And I always think about, and I know I always share this, and I'm gonna get back to my announcement for the second, but I always think about and always share about when I first started the summit. The summit is going into its 8th year, and when I first started the summit, and the Lord spoke to me, and I've shared the story time again, and I feel like reminiscing. So for those of you that heard it already, just say, "Oh, we just Doc is going to share her story." Absolutely, I'm going to share her story. But I remember, Pastor Pastor Boy had passed away in July of 2012. So it was before that. It was January 2012. I had went to Pastor, said, "Pastor, I feel to do a conference." So he was all excited. I think he was more excited than I was. He was more excited than I was. But at that time, we didn't know that Pastor was sick. And so so we were, so I was going to him, and he told me to write out a proposal. So I wrote out a proposal to people that I wanted, and so forth and so on. So we was working on it, and he said, "Well, we gonna do it at Bethel," and da, da, da. And then I think he was more excited than I was. So after a while, it wasn't even becoming my conference. It was becoming more of his, and we were both excited about it. And then after a while, Pat started to go through a bit of his health challenges, and so when Pastor passed away, I kind of put that whole conference to the shelf. I just put it to the shelf, forgot about it because we were traumatized. The pastor was gone, and so forth and so on. So I remember, it's very clear to me. I remember it was Memorial Day weekend. Never forget it. Memorial Day weekend. It was the Friday. I was driving to work. At that time, I was working in Mineola, in the building in front of the train station, and I was on my way to work, and I used to drive through Garden City. And so I was driving down Colbert, getting ready to turn on Stewart Avenue. I never forget, every time I pass it, I always get a flashback. I was driving, morning, minding my own business. I'm telling you guys, minding my own business. And I was driving in the car, la 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 la. It was the Friday before holiday, so we, I already knew we was getting out early from work and so forth and so on. So I'm driving. I'm driving to work, and as I get ready I'm on Covert, getting ready to turn onto Stewart Avenue. The spirit of the Lord, the spirit of the Lord, came into my car like a natural man sitting in the passenger seat. I felt the presence and the weight of God come into that car, and when He came into the car, the Lord spoke to me. Like I'm telling you, just like a person sitting in the passenger seat, uh, spoke to me, and He said to me, "You're not doing what I've called you to do." Now, mind you, I'm like, "What?" That you're not doing what I called you to do. So then I started going through the bucket list. Well, I got new members, and I got Christmas, and I got newcomers, and I got and I got baptism, and I do this, and I do that, and I do the women's club, I did it. I went through the whole list of things that I was doing, and the Lord spoke to me. He says, "You're not doing what I called you to do." And the Lord said to me, "You're supposed to be doing a conference." And I got quiet. Now, at this time, I'm boo-hoo, crying. I mean, I got to work. I was looking like a raccoon child. I'm telling you, I was a hot mess. Ooh, I mean, it wasn't like them tears streaming down. It was a, where you can't even breathe crying. I mean, the Spirit of the Lord, I mean, there's a lot of things He said to me in that car, but He just really sat on me in that car. And I'm driving and crying and driving and crying and driving and crying. And I remember getting to the job. I had to sit in the car for a minute, put Visine in my eyes, try to fix myself up to walk into the building. When I got into the building, and I mean, I, I couldn't even function that day. I could not even function. I was a mess. And I sat there and I'm like, because while I was in the car, I was like, well, Pastor's gone and, blah, blah, blah. And I was just me and the Lord, we were just conversating back and forth, back and forth. That's why I was a hot mess. So I got to work. I couldn't even function that day. And it was a light day anyway. It was the day before a holiday. So, Friday before holiday. So I went online. So I sat there and I thought about my conversation. So at that moment, guys, I tried to satisfy God. I mean, I tried to pacify God instead of satisfy Him. I'm like, conference, it's already May. What kind of conference am I going to do? So then what I started to do, I went online looking at catering halls. I said, well, maybe I'll host a luncheon. So I'm going through all looking at Douglaston Manor, Chateaubriand. I'm just going down the list, Floral Park, Jericho Terrace, everything. Floral Terrace, Jericho Terrace. I'm looking at everything to see if I can find something. And I started going to venues, mind you. But what one thing about me, the Lord speaks to me. I just woof. I just run. I just do. Sometimes I don't drag my feet in because I reverence God and I fear God. And when you've had visitations like that, and you know the presence and the power of God, you just don't play with it. And so I scheduled meetings to go see these places the next week and a half. I'm traveling all over the place looking at things. The Lord told me I gotta do something, so I said I'm gonna do a luncheon. So I'm looking to do a luncheon, and I'm looking. So about 2 weeks I'm doing this. I'm already in June. 2 weeks I'm doing this, and I'm looking and looking, and then the Spirit of the Lord visited me again. And he said to me, I didn't tell you to do a luncheon. I told you to do a conference. I was like, a conference? And that's when he sat down with me and he gave me my marching orders. He said, you will do a summit, and it's going to be a prayer summit. I said, oh my God. So now, and I was like, okay, God. I said, so I'm thinking, let me start and prepare. This is 2013. Let me start and prepare for 2014. Lord said, no, you're going to do it this year. So now I'm like, what? So then now I'm in a tailspin. I'm in a tailspin, and right now it's just me. It's just me and my girlfriend, Dr. Thompson, because I was sharing everything with her because I was all tore up. So then I'm like, the Lord told me not to do a luncheon. He told me to do a conference. She said, what we gonna do? When you gonna do it? I said, I don't know. We're already in the middle of June, almost the end of June, going into July. So I'm like, Lord, what am I gonna do? So then I started looking for venues. I found a venue which was the LaGuardia Courtyard, the LaGuardia Marriott Courtyard. I found a venue, and they had a date in September available. So I said, okay. So I went, booked that, and then now I'm like, and I wasn't a novice to it because I had done retreats, I had done things for our women's ministry. So I've organized. I had to get some administration, so that part wasn't so much of a challenge for me. But I always been the second man. I wasn't the lead. I wasn't the host. I was always the administrator. I was always the one that upheld everybody else's arm and made everybody else look good. I was the background person. So now the Lord was shifting me to be on the front line. And so I remember it was me and her. And I was like, okay, God, what am I going to do? And it seemed like, guys, everything started to fall in line. I got into prayer. I thought some of my friends, I got a flyer together within like a week and a half. I was able to get the flyer in the Love Express, for it ran the month of August and end of September because the conference was the end of September, and things just started happening for me. It just started happening for me. I started getting people that, well, once I put the flyer out, people started coming to me, Doc, I want to help. Doc, I want to help. Doc, I want to help. That's how I got my team. The people, one thing is I was still at my church. I didn't want anybody to think that I was stealing anybody or trying to form my own little thing. People came to me and wanted to help and connected to me, and that's how I got my team. And when it started working with my band and sound and video, the people came to me and said, Doc, we want to help. And it's like that's when I always remember something else I was always taught. Where there's vision, there will be provision. And Lord, the Lord provided every area that I needed, every area, from registration to hosting to everything. The Lord put people into place. And I remember, and I mean, the registration was slow, and I'm like, oh my God. And my fear was, oh my God, I'm doing this and nobody would come because I wasn't out there. I was a Bethelite. I was like Cinderella. I was the one always in the house. I didn't go travel any places. I didn't go to different churches or anything like that. So people really, I guess they knew me, but I didn't really know anybody like that. So I didn't really know. So I did a one-day con. I started Friday night and we went all day Saturday. And I reached out to a speaker. I explained to her that I was just starting off. She said, Doc, We worked, we negotiated. I was able to work something within my budget that there worked out well. And, people came and they helped me and, they helped me build and so forth and so on. And I remember seeing things come together and God's hand being on it. And I was nervous. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if anybody's going to come. And let me tell you something, guys. Oh my God. When I think about it, my team can attest. When I think about I've got registration bags, the whole thing. And let me tell you, even with the registration bags, I had went to a store and there were bags that were the bags was like maybe $10 a piece for the bag. And I went into the store and they were doing a clearance and they had dropped these bags from $10 to like $2 a bag. And I was able to get over 100 and something bags. Now mind you, I didn't even have registration like that. But the Lord spoke to my spirit. So I bought like 200 something dollars worth of bags. And I mean, just thinking about all the things I did. And let me tell you something. God showed himself. Within a week of the conference, our registration went from like 30 people to like almost 100 and something people within 7 days. And then we picked up another, God knows how many, 40, 50 people at the conference. And I just saw God just do some quick and amazing things where even to make a long story short, everything that I needed was already in my reach. It was already in my touch. God was the one caused me to have that drawing power to draw the people to the assignment. And I stood there. I remember the Saturday night when we were closing out. Friday night we did good. We had a nice size. Saturday I was packed to capacity. I had people in the hallway because they couldn't fit in the ballroom. And tears rolled down my eyes because it showed me the faithfulness of God. The faithfulness of God. From my encounter on Memorial Day weekend to almost 3.5 months later, God allowed me to birth out a conference that literally blew my mind. We had over 200 and something people there for the first conference in a small ballroom because I didn't get a big one because I didn't know. And I sat there and I always remember after everything was done, I said, Lord, I obeyed you. I obeyed you, and I pray that you're pleased with me. And I remember walking down the corridor of the LaGuardia courtyard, and Emery walking next to me, and he says, Doc, I see something. What are we doing for next year? I looked at him. I'm like, next year? Do you know how much I burned trying to birth this out? Blah, 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 blah. He says, Doc, I see something. He says, what are we doing for next year? And I looked at him. I'm like, this was a faith walk, blah, 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 blah. He looked at me again. He said, Doc, I see something. What are we doing for next year? And that's where the story unfolded. And I want to encourage somebody that's listening to the sound of my voice that the Lord is putting on your heart to begin something. And you're looking at your resources. You're looking at what you don't have, or you're looking at the areas that you feel you come short in. Let me tell you something. For the people that the Lord brought in my life, they complemented areas that wasn't my strength. They complemented areas which I knew what I liked, but in that area I didn't have the power to execute. And the Lord sent people in my life to help me and to build and to strengthen and to birth out the promise and the vision. What am I saying to you? You got to take the step. You got to take the step. You got to take the step. Going into my 8th year, and each year wasn't easy. Some were really big faith walks, and sometimes there were some challenges, but the Lord always provided. From the outside. And let me tell you something. And I'll stand and I believe this with all my heart, and I definitely stand firm to it. Where there is no money, there shall be favor. 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 I had people upset and jealous and all kinds of things because they saw things and they saw, well, how she get this and how she got that and so forth and so on. But I'm telling you, it was to a point, guys, that it was just the favor of God. It was just the favor of God that opened up doors and for other people paid XYZ for God. God gave it to me where sometimes it just literally blew my mind. The door and the favor that God gave. And the thing about it is, many of you right now, you're looking at what you have in your hand. But if you will just believe God as He gave you marches, see, that's one thing. People can prophesy to me about a whole lot of stuff. But when it comes to that summit, I know that God's hand was on that. I know God, because of the visitation I had in that car. Sometimes, and I'll tell you, when you know that you know that you know that you understand what I'm saying? When you know that you know that you know that you know what God has told you to do. There's times, I'll be honest with you guys, where the weight and the warfare, it wasn't even the conference itself, it was the weight of it. It was the warfare I would get behind it. It was the craziness, attacks in the body, attacks all over the place. I mean, it was just crazy warfare myself and my team would get. And sometimes I would say to myself, what am I doing? I'm going through all of this. Why am I going through all of this? I don't need to be going through all of this. I just going through one of my temper tantrums. But in the final analysis, it was the will of God. And for you to birth out something, never had a child, but for you to birth out something, and I've been graced with a few of my girlfriends that had children. They allowed me to be in the room with them, and they were giving birth, and I was there for the experience, even though I didn't have my own. I was there for the experience, and I saw the labor and the travail and the pain they went through. But at that moment, even though they were going through and the pain in their back and all the different things that they went through to birth that child out, once that child came out and they held that child in their arms, the pain, the hurt, everything they went through, was gone. What am I saying? What I'm saying to you, even though the warfare was great, what I saw, the breakthroughs and the healings and the deliverances of the people, it made it worth it all. It made it worth it all. Sometimes, some people, they go through, they got to do a Facebook Live, a Twitter Live, an Instagram Live, a Periscope to let everybody know what they're going through. And some of us, we just go through the go through because we know that's part of our process. We know that that's what God has called us to and called us to be. That's why you have to know that you know. You got to certain things that you embark on. You got to get your directions from God. I see so many times, and I watch. I see people doing stuff and birthing stuff, and I look and I say, "That's not their oil. That's not their oil. They're doing it because somebody else is doing it, or they're doing it because it looks easy from the outside. Then they get in there, and then they wind up being suicide bombers." But you got to know that you know that you know that you know. And if you're not sure, go back to the Lord. Go back to the Lord until you get your marching orders from Him. Until you get your marching orders from Him. Once you get your marching orders from the Lord, then no devil in hell can tell you what God has called you to do. You will know what God has called you to do. Do you hear me today? You will know what God has called you to do. And so when every now and then when I reminisce and I think about my Stewart Avenue, Covert Avenue experience, that is something that will never leave me. because I had my own personal encounter with God. If I want to call it a theophany, maybe it was a theophany with the presence of the Lord, with God Himself. I'm telling you, the presence of God filled my car, and all I could do was weep. All I could do was weep. All I could do was weep. Many of you, God is waiting for that visitation. He wants to visit you. There's some more. At that moment, guys, I received my marching orders for the next 8 years of my life. This would be my 8th year. At that moment in time was a destiny moment for me. At that moment in time was a kairos moment for me. Things in my life changed for the better. Each year we do it, we get stronger and better and stronger and better and stronger and better. Even when I bring my team around, we sit at the round table and we are discussing things, for the summit, the prayer conference, to make it better and stronger, that type of thing. And someone bring to the table. Oh, so and so group did this, and so group did that, and I think that we should do it. And I would say to them, I said, we're not like so and so, and we're not like so and so. What is God saying to us concerning our assignment? And that's another thing that I want to share with many of you listen to the sound of my voice. It's wonderful to be inspired by others, but make sure whatever you do is what God has ordained for your life to do. And I've shared this many times, and I'll share it again. Once I started to embark in 2013 on a fulfilling the mandate that God gave me, the Lord spoke to me. He took me to the Word, and He said to me, He says, as I gave Moses the instructions for the tabernacle, details from centimeters to cubics to the type of material, how the material should be taken care of, how things should be built, from the most minute detail. And when Moses received the instructions and gave it to the skilled workers, and they started to embark on what the marching orders that was given to them, the Bible says once it was completed, Moses came and he inspected and made sure that what was told to him was so. And then once Moses did it, the Spirit of the Lord came down and saw that which was done was to his specifications. And the Bible says from that moment on, the Spirit of the Lord rested upon the tabernacle. And the Lord spoke to me, and He says to me, as long as you follow what I tell you to do, as long as you follow what I tell you to do, my presence will always be there. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Stay true to your assignment. Don't try to be like this one. Don't try to be like that one. I remember it might have been the second or the third, it might have been the third year of the conference. I had someone who was faithful in coming from the beginning, a great resource, a great help. And they came to me and they said to me, Dr. Williams, I believe you need to do this, and Dr. Williams, you need to do that, and Dr. Williams, they went down the list of the things. You need to have workshops, and you need to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to do this, and blah, 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 blah. And so I started to ponder it in my heart. I said, well, maybe I should do a children's side, and maybe I should do this, and maybe I should do that. So I came home and I started drafting up some things. Here come my visitation again. And the Lord spoke to me so clearly. He said, did I tell you to do that? I said, but Lord, it sounds good, and, we have this and that. He said, but did I tell you to do that? And I said, no, you did not tell me to do that. He says, what did I tell you? Follow my instructions. He says, you're not like this one's prayer conference. You're not like this one's gathering. You're not. He says, I have put a specific oil on your assignment. So your assignment is going to be different. You might not have a whole lot of workshops and because you're not a leadership conference. You're not you're not a word conference. You are a prayer and deliverance summit. I send my people to be delivered and set free. That's the oil that is on your life. That's why I share so many times and I teach you guys, own your own oil. Own your own oil. Prime example, we just had, last week this time, we just had the prayer and consecration anointing service. Lord showed up. We had an extremely good crowd, almost 250 to 200 people that was sitting in that room. We had to put out extra chairs. It was tight in there. And we did communion. The Lord told me to do communion. The Lord had Bishop. I had the Father. I had everybody. I had the Father, the Son, the Mother. Everybody was there. They came out to support me. And the Bishop did the communion, and the power of God fell in the communion. The anointing of God fell in the communion. And I was getting up, and I was going to share a word. And the Lord said to me, you don't need to share a word. You've been teaching the people every morning for 21 days, 6:30 a.m. He said, it's time for impartation. After communion, we did some other different things. Then I had Trina get up, and she set the atmosphere. As she was singing, I heard the Lord give me a song. I told them, have her sing the song. As soon as she sang the song, the anointing came into that place. And then it was over after that. I mean, from the laying on of hands, but there were times where waves came in the room where I didn't have to touch anybody. People just started falling out under the power. Standing online, waiting to get hands laid on. I looked, and they started falling out like dominoes. People started popping up like popcorn in the seats. People started running and falling out, and sheets was flying everywhere because God started to move in the room. Oh, shah. Started to move in the room and started to minister to the people in areas that I could never even minister to. Because we made available the place for him to move like he desired to move. And what I thought we'd get out like 7:30, 8 o'clock, we almost got out 10 o'clock that night. But God came and ministered to each and every one that was in that room. I followed the instructions of God. Now, I could have been disobedient and said, I'm going to preach anyway. I'm going to do what I want to do. And I would have been off and not obeying the voice of God. There are times, children, where you just have to obey God. There are times that even though you know this is the way everybody else does it, but that might not be the way that God has called you to do it. That might not be the way that God has called you to operate in that place. So we have to be sensitive to the voice of God and sensitive to what the Father is saying. So I'm saying to you today, and I spent almost 40 minutes on it, and I didn't plan to, because I was going to teach on, somebody reached out to me this morning and said, Doc, can you teach on the weight and the weight of God? And I was, but I have to obey God because somebody needed to hear this word this morning, because you're at a crossroad right now. 2020 is the year for many of you to come forth. 2020 is the year for many of you to come forth. Do you hear me? 2020 is the year for many of you to come forth. And you cannot, do you hear me? You cannot stand on the side with excuses. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't. Where there is vision, there will be provision. But not only will there be provision, but you have to have the faith to believe. And like Monette is sharing right now, obedience is the key. I could have been rebellion in my own state, and there might not even be a summit now, or even some of the other things that were birthed forth because of that. Power gathering, aroma of prayer, consecrations, all those different things was birthed out of that one moment when I gave God a yes. That yes wasn't a yes that came from my lips. It was a yes that came from my heart. Anybody this morning ready to give God a heart yes? There's so many times we give God a lip yes, but are we giving God a heart yes? Because when we give God a heart yes, you're going to press through every level of adversity and pain and strife or whatever you have to go through. Because I remember, I'm just here reminiscing, I remember the first year I did it, there was a group of people who stood on the side and they wanted it to fail. Said it wasn't God, said all kinds of things about it. Ain't nobody gonna go to that, so forth and so on. Because people don't realize it's twofold. When you talk, people, number one, people come back and tell you. That's number one. Number two, when you are prophetic, you can tap into realms and you can hear people's conversations. So there were times where I could hear, and some things were brought back to me to confirm what I heard. And so they stood on the side. Some of them even had the nerve to come the first year. Some sat on the side. They said it wasn't of God. Said all kinds of things. And if I got so caught up in what they were saying, I would have missed my season of obeying God. Don't miss your season of obeying God. Do you hear me? Don't miss your season of obeying God. Well, Dr. Williams, I'm telling you, hear me clearly. Don't miss your season of obeying God. Because some of these seasons will not come back around again. I always remember, I was watching it the other day because, I love Steve Harvey. And he was sharing about the story with him and Marjorie. I think she's such a beautiful woman. And he always says that she was the best thing that ever happened to him. And he was sharing how they were dating. Right? And she was at, I think, his New York place. And he thought she was sleeping on the couch. And one of his other girlfriends called, and he was on the side talking, so forth and so on. And he didn't realize that she wasn't sleeping. So that night, he's laying down sleeping. She packed her stuff. And she got the rolling bag, and she's walking out the door. And he's like, yo, where you going? Where you going? I'm just kind of paraphrasing it right now. And in so many words, she said to him, she said, look, when you're ready to commit, find me. But it doesn't mean when you find me, you're ready, that I'm going to be available. And he said at that moment, he broke his phone. And from that moment on, he decided what he wanted. And I was listening to it. It was a very long story they were sharing. But I was listening to it. And sometimes, God, you got to understand what's available to you now might not be available when you stop procrastinating and you start making excuses with God. Well, God, I don't know if I could work that out. God, I don't know if I could write that book. I don't know. there you could be standing right in front of an investor that is willing to sow into your book or sow into your conference. I'm telling you, I remember times I was in summit and it was definitely a faith walk. And it was the last service, and I'm like, okay, God, I still got this to pay, that to pay, I need this, I need that. And people would come up to me and just put envelopes in my hand and say, Doc, the Lord told me. Doc, the Lord told me. Doc, the Lord told me. And bills were paid. Why am I saying that? Because where there is vision, the Lord will provide. He is Jehovah Jireh. He is our provider. The Lord will provide. Stop looking at what you have right now. You might be wanting to go get a house. The credit is jacked. And it doesn't mean that it's no fault of your own. You could have helped somebody, co-sign on somebody, and they go and they renege, and it negatively impacts you. Or you could have lost your job. Or the little money you had saved up, an emergency came and you had to utilize it. Whatever it might be, sickness, illnesses, affliction, whatever it might be, whatever it might be, you hear me? Whatever it might be, God made you a promise. And where there is no money, where there might not be a strong credit score, where there might not even be a down payment, there will be favor. Because that's the kind of God that we serve. There will be favor. For the favor of the Lord will surround you like a shield. And when people see you, all they will see is the favor of God upon your life. And they will do for you because of God's favor. Step out on God. You got to take the step. But make sure you first get your marching orders from God, not from man. Let man be the confirmation, but let God be the one that directs. You hear what I'm saying to you? Let man be the confirmation. Many of you hear a word and you run with it. But what is God saying? I taught yesterday on the aroma prayer about redirected. Sometimes we need to be redirected because, and I'm not knocking prophets because I'm a prophetess myself, and I sure enough give the word of the Lord when the Lord gives it to me. But I tell people, when you're about to embark on something major, there should be a visitation from God from you or for you personally. Whether a one-on-one visitation, dream, vision, something. I was sharing with someone the other day, someone had came to me and said, oh, Doc, the Lord put something in my heart to do, da-da-da-da-da. And as much as I loved them, I had to tell them the truth. I'm like, you're not ready. You gotta get things in order. But see, sometimes when somebody wants to do something so badly, they will continue to go and share the vision until somebody tells them what they want to hear. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear because I don't want you to be shipwrecked. See, understand and know you can feel something burning in your spirit to do it, but it might not just be the time because there's a level of maturity that you have to do. There's some things you have to go through. Not only that, it's the warfare that comes with it. Oh, I want to put on an event. Yeah, putting on an event is not hard. You get a venue, and even if you don't know administration, you can go online and get a checklist. You can go online because one of the things that I wanted to start to embark on again. I used to love to do event planning. So I wanted to, I like planning events, Christian events, I like planning weddings, that type of thing. So I was gonna, have my little side hustle of event planning. Just have that little, little stream of income coming in. And so I was out there looking, making sure I have venues under my belt and looking at different sites to help people find dresses and tuxedos and music and putting vendors together and other different things, to kind of birth or something that I wanted to do. But in the final analysis, you got to know what God is saying to you concerning what He wants you to do. There's things, guys, I've always desired to do. Like I was just talking about the event planning thing. Love to do it. Love to do it. My gift of administration. Love to do it. It's not hard. So, let me go plan an event. Even if you don't, you can go online and get a checklist. Or you could call somebody up who already does it and they can walk you through what needs to be walked through. Well, especially when you're planning something and it's a spiritual event, natural part is fine. But if you are not prepared spiritually, honey, that devil gonna have you for lunch. You gonna be fricasseed, fried, scrambled, jerked, charboiled, and burnt. If you are not prepared for the warfare and the fight, because anything worth having, anything worth doing, there's a fight attached to it. There's warfare attached to it, especially if it's going to make a great impact. That's why sometimes you got to rest in God. And when the time is right, because let me tell you something, I can want something so bad. And I've seen it. 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 I remember one time I was counseling someone, and she was like, Dr. Williams, this is my husband, blah, blah, blah. And the Lord spoke to me and said, no, it's not your husband. It's not her husband. So, she came to me and we were talking. I said, sweetheart, I just have to be honest with you. I said, Lord spoke to me and this is not the man for you to marry. Oh, she was blue in the face. Oh, she was burnt up. Oh, she was upset with me. Oh, she was done. Done, 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 done. So then she went to someone else and the person told her the same thing. So she now had two confirmations. She was in a challenging situation. What am I saying to you? What am I saying to you? I think I'm looking. I think Facebook cannot hear me. I see them posting. The sound is gone. Are you there? I think something's going on with Facebook Live. But anyway, you have to know that you know that you know that God is in the midst of what you're doing. God is in the midst of what you're doing. But I want you guys to be encouraged today as we go forth in the things of God, as we go forth knowing that God is in the midst of the great things that He is doing in the lives of His people. The Bible declares, eyes have not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things that the Lord has prepared for those who love Him. Get positioned, get postured. Get positioned and get postured. So I know some of you lost. Let me just repeat that again. Y'all be like, what happened to the story of the lady? So the lady, I told her not to marry him. She went to somebody else. They told her not to marry him. So she kept going to somebody who told her what she wanted to hear. And sometimes, when we want to do something so bad, we will keep going to people to get the answers that we want, but it not necessarily be the will of God for our situation. Hear God in this season. Sometimes you have to go back and hear God. So the young lady, the marriage lasted maybe a year and a half. He had another woman on the side while he was engaged and marrying her, because he married her for her money. What am I saying to you? Sometimes we got to learn how to wait on God. Wait on God. And that thing almost took her mind. But the word of the Lord came, but she didn't want to hear. The Bible says, he that have an ear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying. See, that's why when the Lord puts people in your life, He puts them there for a reason. So I was saying to say this, is that sometimes we can desire to do something, and we will keep searching around until somebody tells us what we want to hear, but don't necessarily mean, because sometimes people don't have your best interest at heart. They want you to fail. They want you to be challenged. But anyway, it's 8 o'clock. Let me just go over announcements, which I was trying to do an hour ago, and I never made it there. But join me today, those of you that are in the Bronx. I'll be at Fellowship Covenant Church, 720 Castle Hill Avenue, Bronx, New York, at 2 p.m. At 2 p.m. Now, let me explain for those of you, this is their Winter Fire Conference. They're having breakfast and lunch. Now, those of you who are coming, if you're there for the whole day, I believe the registration is $65. If you are coming with me, if you're coming for the 2 o'clock service, it's not $65, but we'll ask for a free will offering, okay? We'll ask for a free will offering for those of you that are coming to the 2 p.m. service. We'll ask you for a free will offering, okay? Because we're going to miss breakfast and we're going to miss lunch by the time I get there. So I'll be part of the 2 o'clock service. So today, join me 10 a.m. power gathering, 1540 Hempstead Turnpike in Elmont, New York, 10 to 12-ish, depending on what the Spirit of the Lord does on them today. And then from there, we're going to be heading to the Bronx, and we're going to see what the end is going to be. Amen? We're going to see what the end is going to be. So that is today, 2 p.m., Fellowship Covenant Church, 720 Castle Hill Avenue, Bronx, New York. And then next Friday, join me at New Covenant Temple, 1805 Amsterdam Avenue, between 149th and 150th Street. I will be Friday, February 7th, there's 7:30 speaker. And then on Saturday, which I was really, truly honored, I'll be with Bishop Darius Nixon. I'll be his intercessor, opening up his service for this Saturday, February 8th. At 1 p.m. And that is the Inner City Prophetic Ministries, 167-04 108th Avenue in Jamaica, Queens, New York, for his Compass Revival. So I'm excited about what the Spirit of the Lord is doing in this hour and this time. And then this month, we will also have Life Zone. And in this month, God has a birthday. So we're going to be celebrating for the whole month of February. So I'm excited about what Spirit of the Lord is doing. So grateful for each and every one of you. I'm grateful for what God is doing. I went a little bit over time, But I pray that what I shared today, for some of you that are dragging your feet, it's time now for you to get up and do what God has called you to do. If you have the faith, God has the power. Vision from God will open up doors for the provision to come in to be manifested. Amen? Amen. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on Keeping the Momentum of Prayer. I pray that you are blessed. I pray that you are encouraged. Most of all, I pray that the Lord propels you. But you, man, woman of God, take this step and trust God. Amen. Be blessed, be encouraged. Have a blessed, a wonderful, and awesome day in Jesus' name. God bless you.